that were in the worst shape are the ones with really low mileage. We had a lady come in with 18,000 miles. The car was 20 years old.
Okay.
And it was
Man, that is low.
horrible. And because she never drove it. She drove short trips. What happens is when you drive a vehicle and you drive it just short trips, condensation builds up in the oil. And the way you get that condensation out is by driving it and bringing the oil up to temperature and letting the PCV system, the positive crankcase ventilation system, steam the condensation out of the oil. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that before when you're driving, the car gets hot and you have that little breather on top of either your valve covers or it might be external somewhere else, and you'll see a bit of smoke coming out of it. Right.
Or you'll open up your oil cap and you'll see this kind of white milky film on it. And you say, man, I got a lot of condensation in my oil. Well, if you keep running it, let's say you take the car. I remember my dad being when I was a kid. So I'm taking Granny's car and we drive it about 20 miles down the road, down the freeway, and we'll come back and I'm going to blow it out. And he'll run it pretty hard all the way back because all Granny did is take short trips. So he'll run it by 20, 25 miles and then come back and run it 20, 25 miles, and it would be fine. He would bring the oil up to temperature and run it, and it would steam itself out and everything else. And that would help the car last so much longer. It's the short trips that kill these engines.
That's something my dad would always do before he would take a car to get smogged, especially if it had been sitting for a while, right?
Sure. Yeah, because it has there's all these contaminants and all these byproducts of combustion that are there that gets, all these things get steamed out in the crankcase ventilation system. And it's nasty. I mean, some of the worst. So I changed my oil I have a farm truck. I only put 300 miles on it in a year. I mean, it's nothing. We'll drive it into town just because I needed to put miles on it. I'll drive it. I'm going to go into Home Depot or something that's 15 miles away. And we're out in the country up in East Texas. And I'll drive that just because I need to put miles on it. I need to drive it. And then we change the oil every year, no matter what. Okay. Even if it's got 300 miles on it, that's it. And the oil looks pretty crappy, and it's because of condensation and because of all these things. It never cleans itself out. So we drain the oil and I put a filter in, a good filter, the best filter I can get. And that's the other thing, guys. Buy a good filter. On my Ford, I use a Motorcraft filter. I could use a Fram, maybe the best Fram would be good, a good Wix. But I use a Motorcraft because I think they work really well. And it's made by Ford. It's a Ford F-150. And that works really well. On our Ram, we use a Mopar filter. Or I'll use a really good Fram. But that's just important to use a good filter and a good oil. People will buy, you go to some of those lickety lubes or whatever lube centers, and they use, maybe an okay oil, but they use a cheapy filter. I mean, they use a $2 filter. A lot of shops do that because they're trying to, make some money, and I don't blame them.
And gas is the same thing, right? A lot of people, especially when you're storing your cars, you definitely want to put an additive into it, but you want to find the best way to drain it, let it drain out of your carburetor if you're going to park it, because people don't realize the gas today is so crummy that it actually turns to this like crusty gel if it sits for too long, especially in your carburetors once all the, alcohol dries out of it.
Yeah, it's terrible. And I didn't realize, I was talking to some diesel guys, that there are different qualities of DEF fluid.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there's crummy DEF fluid and there's good DEF fluid. I didn't realize, and the crummy stuff is just as bad for your system as the cheapy fuel is for your, gas engine. I mean, I didn't realize it made that big a difference.
I just had a tuner at my shop the other day, and he was telling me that he used to live in the neighborhood, and we have two gas stations. One on the corner is Arco, and the other one is Chevron. And he says he used to get both of them, but because he tunes cars and he sits on the computer and he's able to actually see, the air fuel ratio and everything that's going on, he goes, I realized the gas from the Arco station is worse than the Chevron station here. And, there's those little things that nowadays your cars have the computer sensors that are able to tell it, oh, you're running lean, you can adjust here, you can adjust there to get it running optimal. But a lot of the older cars, especially, it's set for what it's set. And so when you give it something that's not good for it, like cheap gas or something, it's not going to detonate correctly and you have issues.
Right. But some of the new cars with direct injection, the problem you have is there's no way to clean off the valves and stuff because the fuel gets injected directly into the combustion chamber. So the valves don't get cleaned off from all the carbon and things. So people that run, non-top tier fuel, or basically the cheaper fuel, they don't ever get it cleaned out. So they end up having to go, I've saved 3 cents a gallon or 4 cents a gallon on fuel. Okay, cool. But then, 30,000 miles later, they got to spend $200 to have the system redone, cleaned with some kind of injector cleaner and fogged and things like that. And so all the money they saved and more they've spent because they have to get it running because it starts to die and it stops. The direct injection vehicles, it's a big problem with them.
I just heard the other day that direct injection cars, like, the old theory of like, I got to go warm up my car, let it warm up for a little bit before I take off. A direct injection car or a direct injection motor it's not ideal to let your car warm up. It's actually pretty bad for it.
I know. But the problem is that I just don't like the fact you're running oil that's so cold. And it's not just the engine, it's the transmission is cold. Transmission fluid is cold. And so the engine may be good for it it's okay for it to drive along, but the transmission and the differential and stuff, it may not be. So that's part of my issue. I like to warm it up at least maybe 60 seconds.
Yeah, I'm with you because you can feel sometimes when that transmission oil is cold, it's like lagging to shift, right?
Right. Yeah, it's just a little bit on the newer vehicles, but I just hate to see fluids not come up to optimal temperature, and that's part of a problem. But folks, just change your fluids. And I know we can't really do a whole lot to keep our cars up nowadays. You change the spark plugs at 100,000 miles. There's not a lot else we do. We put a belt on it around 100,000 miles. The serpentine belt, we put a tensioner on that. That's it. We put coolant on it. We flush the transmission out. We do the brake fluid. We do the coolant. There's not a lot else.
I just had to replace 2 injectors on my Yukon. It's a 2005, 220,000 miles. And I go, 2 went out. I should replace the other 6. And all
Not
the mechanics I talked to said, nope, don't leave it.
Nope.
If it's working, it's not the type of thing that has the wear like some things on cars.
Nope, not at all. Change your spark plugs at maybe about 90 to 100. You don't have to replace coil packs or anything. That stuff is especially as long as you've replaced your spark plugs and use your original equipment spark plugs. You don't have to mess with coil packs or anything. It's just if you do this first, you don't have to worry about all the ancillary problems that are caused. It just makes a big difference. And I just, like I had somebody the other day check spark plugs. He checked the resistance on the spark plugs, and some of them were way off. So he went back to the auto parts store and got another set, and they were fine. So I know I've never checked the resistance. I haven't checked the resistance on spark plugs.
You wouldn't even
think
to us, especially you go buy some new ones.
Right. And he went and checked them. He said, well, they had a bad batch. And these were like AC Delco. And he went and found another set. And this, at O'Reilly's. And they were like, okay, took them back and they gave another set. Check the gap, this kind of stuff. So, folks, it's just take a minute. Take a minute and just slow down and do your best. And gosh, your vehicle will run so much better. And the only problem is that's the stuff that most shops won't do because they're in such a hurry. And if you do it yourself, sometimes it's done right. I hate to say that, but
it's daunting nowadays, especially you open an engine compartment and there's a big piece of plastic there. You can't even see what you're about to work on. But you take a few minutes and then you have this pride in working in your own thing, especially when you get it back on the road.
Yeah, but you also, when you take it in, you don't know if you get the tech that's.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
So why do teenagers play high school sports?
My reason why is a sense of purpose.
My reason why is to inspire others.
One reason student athletes seldom mention is to get an athletic scholarship. They know that only 2% of all high school athletes are awarded a sports scholarship. So why do they play?
My reason why is friendship.
Tell us your reason using the hashtag #MyReasonWhy.
This message presented by the NFHS and the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
This is Everett Fitzhugh, the radio voice of the NHL Seattle Kraken, and you're listening to the home of the Youngstown Phantoms, Western Reserve Radio.
Our producer, Sean Mapes, and myself thank everybody for joining us today on the Let's Talk Wheels Radio Network, and we sure hope you subscribe to our podcast. I'm Mike Herzing. Have a great week, folks.
They say they'll get your biggest tax refund. Jackson Hewitt says your biggest tax refund guaranteed, and a chance to double your tax refund. Thousands in weekly prizes during the Double Your Refund sweepstakes. Your biggest refund times 2, twice the money, so forget about them. File your taxes on the double at Jackson Hewitt today. No purchase necessary to enter or win. Open to U.S. residents 18 or older who file a 2022 federal tax return. Promotion ends 4/2/23. Visit jacksonhewitt.com for rules.
Asthma symptoms can attack anywhere, like on a city street. Now you can get fast relief anywhere with new improved Primatene Mist, the only FDA-approved asthma inhaler available over the counter. So whether you need relief of symptoms at the park or at your kitchen table, Primatene Mist starts working quickly, opening up your airways to restore free breathing. For temporary relief of mild symptoms of intermittent asthma, use Primatene Mist and breathe easy again. Available at CVS, Rite Aid, and Walgreens. Use as directed.
Wake up call! So, I got a question. I don't know nothing about the competitive dart world. Are they just training for that?
Yeah.
Like, is there another strategy? Or is it just like every day that they practice, it's just hitting that little sliver? It's just hitting that
That's a great. I don't know enough.
Like, if I went up to a professional dartist and I went, that little, because it's right, it's by the 20, right? Dartist.
I like that.
That's a great, can I say that?
That's fantastic.
Dartist?
Dartist.
So Dartist, guys, it's DARTIST. Put it in the dictionary. Philip on Twitter, that crowd sounded like somebody who just won a Final Four game. I know. That's what's amazing.
With a buzzer beater.
So the guy that's the lead commentator for the Formula One broadcast on Sky Sports is a dart nut. He is. So I follow him on Twitter.
Is that another one? Dart nut?
Yeah. Can I use that too?
Put that one in the dictionary.
Wake up call with Tony V and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings from 9 to noon Eastern.
Wake up call.
It's official, Tony. Boston Dynamics equals Skynet.
Every time you do a Boston Dynamics story, I get more and more petrified.
There's a new video of a two-legged robot just doing things that a two-legged robot shouldn't do on its own.
No.
Watching this video, the only thought going through my mind is that, you know what? The countdown in human existence started right there.
Exactly.
That's done.
Tick, tick, tick.
Wake up call with Tony V and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings from 9 to noon Eastern.
If you're missing the cash-in with Jason Page, then you're missing this.
I want to see an entire season without Tom Brady in it, then I'll believe the man is retired. Until then, he's not retired as far as I'm concerned. I have no reason to believe that a guy that is still capable of playing the game. Imagine if you were the Niners, if the injury to Jimmy G happened, that made Brock Purdy the starter happen. Let's just say that happened next year to a team that's in contention that could win a Super Bowl. And Tom Brady's out there. You think Tom's not going to be in shape? You think he's just going to suddenly sit on the couch and eat a bunch of bonbons? Tom Brady's going to be ready for somebody to call him next year, mid-season, when he has the itch. A contender will need a quarterback, and they will call Tom Brady.
The Cash-In. Weeknights at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on Sports Map Radio.
Are you looking for your next favorite content to binge? Look no further. Search for your team at www.believe.com, where you can find sports analysis from former pro athletes, scripted comedy shows, binge-worthy pop culture, health, and much more. That's BLEAV, the #1 content network for professionals. Do you believe?
Youngstown, Warren, and Salem's local and national sports talk can be found on TuneIn and the Live 365 app at Western Reserve Radio. WRDB, The Scourge.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio, take 1.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the Angry Giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Golf in the Mahoning Valley starts at Mill Creek Golf Course. Mill Creek Golf Course is the host venue for the AJGA PGA Hope Program, 8 high school teams, and 2 collegiate teams. Mill Creek Golf Course is your Callaway certified golf club fitting facility. It was named the PGA of America's National Merchandiser of the Year for a public facility 2022. Book your tee time at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
Golf in the Mahoning Valley starts at Mill Creek Golf Course. Come out to the 36 beautiful hole design course by Donald Ross, and golf lessons are available by calling the team shop at 330-740-7112. Don't forget about family fun nights on Friday and Saturday evenings, a family of 4 with cart for only $25. Or visit the Wick Recreation Area and the lighted Par 3 course. Book your tee time today at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's time to kick back and listen to the Sports Page with your host, Pat Lucia, right here on Western Reserve Radio. You can call the show at 330-707-4202 and tell everyone what's on your mind in the wonderful world of sports. Now, here's your host, Pat Lucia.
Saturday morning Sports Page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. Western Reserve Radio, Gessler Propane Studio is where the show is done at, 330-707-4202. Dave Clark, get in and talk sports. Have we got a lot of talk about this morning, this Saturday morning, February 4th, 2 days after Groundhog Day. Groundhog saw a shadow, supposedly 6 more weeks of winter, but we were going to warm up this week coming up in the 40s and 50s, and supposedly February is going to be warmer than normal is what we're told. So we can keep a good thought for the cold people in northern Ohio, which we're obviously always used to this weather, or try to get used to it. Maybe we never do. But getting on to the world of sports, as always, today is like a smorgasbord of sports stories. You've got Kyrie now wants traded. The saga continues. What will the Nets do? We could talk about maybe what they should do. Maybe they don't trade him. Maybe they do. Where are the teams supposedly on the list that he may end up at? I know the Lakers seem to be the number 1 team on the list. And according to Colin Cowherd, this is all engineered that's where Kyrie wants to go, is the Lakers. Play with LeBron and Anthony Davis. Get into that. Also, we have obviously the Super Bowl. We're a week away from the Super Bowl. We could talk about the games that happened last week, and the officials obviously get an F from a lot of people. Missed calls, just a tirade of things to get to. A shopping list of screw-ups by the officials. Something to do with the challenging and the San Francisco-Philadelphia game, not the catch they should have challenged, could have maybe changed the complexion, the outcome of the game. We'll never know. We have that to talk about. There's the Kyrie deal to talk about. And then there's the coaching vacancies that are open, and then we have the ones that have been filled. Sean Payton will go to Denver, talk about that. Frank Reich is going to Carolina, but Arizona Cardinals job is still open, and definitely the Colts with our favorite owner. Well, one of our favorite owners, Mr. Irsay, who wants to play George Steinbrenner. I almost feel like George Steinbrenner reincarnated because he wants to make the decisions on the field, who's going to be quarterback, who's not going to be quarterback. If you read anything about George Steinbrenner in the 80s, George was trying to manage the team, not only being the general manager, but he's also trying to manage the team on doing everything else that he had to do.
Yep.
And then I guess we can talk a little bit, what will be, I know Jim Harbaugh is in trouble with the NCAA. Yes, he gave somebody a hamburger. It's and he's not cooperating with the NCAA. Over a hamburger. The NCAA just won't go away.
Just leave, Jim. Leave. I just leave. And I know it's some fans, especially in this country, probably say, good riddance, Harbaugh. But come on, man. I mean, I would never say anything against anybody in the NCAA, whether you're a Michigan or a Ohio State fan. Don't say anything negative. If anything, throw it at the NCAA, because you know what? You can talk about that team or that school, and believe me, if NCAA can come around and mess with you, they will. We done seen that in the past with the dumb, stupid jersey tattoo game.
Yeah, the tattoo, Ohio
that
State.
Made no sense when guys are getting suspended and can't coach Tressel in college or the pros. Doesn't matter. How can it affect you in the NFL? You're not even been in there. Unbelievable. That stuff that they do. Unbelievable. I can't stand this. Hey, so when we rip them, I love ripping them because I mean, just irritates me so
they
bad.
Need, realistically, what needs to happen much sooner than later
a hamburger.
Is you need to take the Power 5 football and basketball teams and break away from the NCAA, and they just need to kind of form their own rules. But when you have now, it's millions of dollars with NIL deals lined up.
Yeah.
And you're getting into this. You're getting back to this sick, stupid mentality of some recruit or somebody getting food, a sandwich, a hamburger, a meal, and you're going to even have the audacity to go after a head coach and say, hey, you can't do that. You can't be giving some recruit a, quote, extra benefit, which is a McDonald's, or I don't know where he purchased the hamburger from. But it be as it may, you see the stupidity when you read about the schools like the Big Ten schools paying their schools $60 million off the Big Ten network.
Yeah.
And the UCLA and the USCs are ditching their conferences, the conference, Pac-12, to come to the Big Ten because of the money they would be getting off of the Big Ten network. Believe it was between 60 and 70 million each school gets. It may be higher now. So you've got TV deals, millions and millions of dollars changing hands. And with the TV deals they have with the networks, college football it's really, there's no amateur athletics. Amateur athletics has been gone for 50 years, for crying out loud. So get over this. And there's still people hanging on to the boy, these players, they can't be getting any money. That's I thought, what planet are you on?
Yeah. I mean it doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense whatsoever. Right. And it's almost like people get upset when players are getting paid. And I laugh because I said, that's been going on for a long time. Mm-hmm. I mean, players are getting money under the table. Now it's over the table. And obviously it's like when they took this to the Supreme Court, they got, the NCAA gets slam dunked by the Supreme Court. It says, no, basically you can't, continue to hold money back from these kids. You've got to let them, and they're going to, and if they continue to protest, and they're not going to limit the NIL.
No,
we've talked about, they're not doing that. They can't limit NIL.
Right.
If If you limit the NIL for a kid that's 18, 19 years old, what are you going to have to start limiting it to LeBron James? And you can't. You can't tell LeBron James, LeBron, you can't make that much in NIL. You can't make that much off your name. If you can't limit that to an 18-year-old kid unless you have to limit to everybody. And you can't. That's basically like socialism. That's like you can't do that.
Right.
So people bring up this thing about, well, they're going to have to limit the NIL. It's got out of hand. Get over it, because it's staying where it is. And if these schools want to give recruits $200,000 to get them to come to their school through an NIL deal, so be it.
And I mean, you got all this money changing hands, as you
do.
said. You mentioned USC and UCLA. We can also talk about Texas and Oklahoma, who will be going to the SEC, and not this season,
No,
but the
evidently
following one.
now that came out.
They're trying to stop that, right?
They were trying. Texas and Oklahoma wanted to go in 2024,
right?
But the deal fell through. They wanted to leave a year earlier
instead of 25, right?
Yeah. Now, evidently, that did not go through.
So they got to wait until 2025.
So it looks like Texas and Oklahoma will have to wait till 2025.
But it's still happening.
It will happen. It's
Still
just
money.
going to happen in 2025
Right.
instead of they were trying to get out of there 1 year earlier and try to get in there 2024, which would obviously mean this upcoming year would be the last year for Texas and Oklahoma to be in the Big 12.
Right.
That's not the case. Now it looks like they will have to stay in the Big 12 one more year, which would be 2024. That was the latest.
And I can see them doing that because that will give them the opportunity to see if they can build something with the Pac-12 somewhere. When you lose USC and UCLA, you got to try to redefine that. So they'll have a little bit of time to try to see who they can get to come to that conference to keep it going. They will have that opportunity. Not that they'll be those teams,
right?
But we almost thought that the Big 12 would be done, and maybe not. We got teams that's going to be floating everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think all those leagues will continue. Just might not be as prominent as they were in years past.
What will happen, at least in my estimation, is people keep throwing dirt on the Pac-12 or the Big 12 proverbial grave. They're no. That's not happening. Too much money. You're going to get other schools to go there. What might happen is like maybe those other conferences, the lower tier conferences, may end up combining because Pac-12 and the Big 12 are going to raid those other conferences for schools.
Yeah.
You're going to still have the money. You're still going to have the TV deals. Pac-12 is just going to have to get a better deal for TV, which I'm confident they're going to do it.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that at the end of the day, those conferences are not going anywhere. Stop throwing dirt on those conferences like they're not going away.
Yeah.
They're going to retool them.
They'll do something. I didn't know what, but I knew they'd do something.
They're going to retool them. And then the other news was Tommy Rees from Notre Dame is now going to be the offensive coordinator for Alabama.
Yes, I see that.
So that's the deal going on. So let's hit the phones. You're on the sports page. What's up?
Good morning, Pat. Good morning, Dave. How you guys doing?
Hey, Irish Mike. What's going on?
Doing well. Hey, I just heard you mention the news, Pat. 14 months ago, I think the football world was very surprised when Brian Kelly left Notre Dame to go to LSU to be head coach. And, of course, one of the people he wanted to take with him to LSU was Tommy Rees. He offered him the job to be offensive coordinator down at LSU, and Tommy Rees said, he was obviously it was foregone conclusion that Marcus Freeman was going to take control of the program after Brian Kelly left. And, I think Marcus Freeman got to Tommy Rees before Brian Kelly in regards to, hey, we want you to stay here. You went to school here. Your alumnus here. Your dad works here. We want you to stay. And so, obviously, Tommy Rees stayed at Notre Dame and was the offense coordinator last year for Marcus Freeman in his first year as head coach. And now here we are, a month after the season or so ends, and he decides he's going to leave and obviously going to make $2 million a year, which is a little bit more than he'd make at Notre Dame. I think he was making 1.5 or 1.6. So, He got about a $400,000 a year raise, plus now he's the offensive coordinator at Alabama. Tommy Rees aspires to be in the NFL, no doubt about that. And I think he thinks this is another step in his career of having that done.
Yeah, I definitely think that if you look at Alabama offensive coordinators, where they ultimately end up at, they ultimately end up usually taking a head coach job at another college, major school, or they end up into the NFL and navigate their way through there. And he's probably looking that if he goes to Alabama, then he may be a candidate. He's going to fast track him either to be a college head coach at college or a coordinator job in the NFL, which could maybe lead to a potential head coaching job there too. So I could see his point. I mean, and he wants to obviously get the exposure of coaching with Saban. So that always seems to work out.
And to clarify something, because I know fans are obviously wondering, just a month ago, not even a month, 3 weeks ago, Sam Hartman, the quarterback from Wake Forest, who started, 49 college games? He had transferred to Notre Dame to be a sixth-year senior this coming fall, and on occasions he's staying. I know, but Tommy Rees was one of those big reasons why Hartman left Wake Forest, because he wanted to run a, quote, more pro-style offense that Notre Dame runs to get him ready for the NFL draft, come April of 2024. And, they started school 3 weeks ago at Notre Dame, and now, lo and behold, Tommy Rees is gone, and Sam Hartman's still at Notre Dame. And one could argue, guys, that, and I'm not trying to make you laugh, I'm just being dead serious, with Bryce Young being gone from Alabama now and going out to the NFL, which he should, you could argue for at least the 2023 season, for the first time in 15 years, that Notre Dame actually has a better quarterback on their roster than Alabama has on their roster.
Yeah, could be.
Right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
For at least 1 year, guy. This guy will be the best quarterback Notre Dame's had since Jimmy Clausen left in 2009, at least for 1 year as a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think, it may be it's those rarities to see who Nick has coming in, and it may be a year where he'll be in a developmental stage with his quarterback.
Yeah, just wondering who he's bringing.
Obviously, Dave, he's recruited talented quarterbacks, no doubt about that, but they're young and they've never played.
Right.
I mean,
right.
We can look at recruiting rankings all we want and say, well, this guy's a 5, this guy's a 4, but if you've never played, you've never played.
Yeah. It's different. Every level you go to, it's a little different factor. That's for sure. And especially at that position, just the nuances of playing that position changes drastically as you move to each level. So
we'll see. Like I said, that's good stuff. We'll, as the sea of the coaching carousel turns in the NCAA, and then also we were talking in pro football. But
Pat, this is why you and I have had conversations for 20 years about this. This is why you have no problem now with players being able to transfer and being immediately eligible, because you've told me for 20 years coaches leave all the time.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is there's no contract that ever seems to hold a coach. If they want to leave, they let them leave.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now the kids can leave too.
Yeah.
And I know that gets everybody
upset, but you know what? But it's terrible when you're an 18, 17-year-old kid and that coach comes into your living room, talk to your parents, and hey, I love this. I go, and then they turn around and say, I'm gone.
Yeah, 3 months later, right.
And now you're stuck there. And whoever else is coming in may change the complete philosophy of what they do. Now you're just stuck there. And that I always thought that was unfair, especially at positions like we're talking about quarterback and things of that nature. And now to be able to move is definitely a good thing. It's always pluses and minuses and everything. And, a lot of people like to look at the minuses of people moving around like this, but I actually like it. I do, because these coaches go anywhere, leave these guys high and dry. They should be able to leave too if they need to.
Well, what will also happen now, it'll be interesting to see if the Power 5 conferences can break away from the NCAA, and that will prevent, the NCAA is, threatening an investigation, trying to ruin a program like they did Miami, Florida's program. They almost that's. I would make an argument the way what they did in Miami football is almost not quite, but it's close to what happened to SMU in a death penalty because till this day, Miami, Florida's program just has really never recovered from that debacle of the investigation that the NCAA screwed up. It's been now how many years that happened, but Miami's never recovered from that.
And they started to make a turn of trying to come back when they had Butch Davis, to be honest with you.
Right, they did.
And then they put some more other things out there.
Right.
And then whoever took over after him with Goat and everybody, it just went awry. After that, it was just finished.
It was finished.
And
they've been struggling since.
They've had the death penalty without having the death
Right.
penalty.
Well, that's just it. They've had the worst thing is because it never came out as the death penalty.
Yeah.
But you could almost make an argument it is the death penalty because they're paying the, ramifications of that, that botched investigation that the NCAA carried on for what, how many years? 2 years?
Right.
And like Golden was the coach then said, yeah, you didn't. Then you come out after 2 years, say, yeah, you're okay. No, I'm not okay because I've lost recruit after recruit because they thought the hammer was going to drop on my program. And Miami, Florida's just never really recovered
it's
from
the
that.
stigma. People don't think stigma stays
Oh,
around,
no,
but
it
it
can,
does.
right.
And that has hurt them.
Yeah.
They don't even recruit from their own state like they used to.
No.
I mean, they used to get the big time guys. Not all, but they got a lot of them, and that doesn't happen now. You see guys decommit and go somewhere else.
Go somewhere else.
Right.
Florida
It's
State
sad.
is at least making a better
Trying to make a
inroad.
comeback
Is coming
now.
back. They seem to be coming up better than Miami. Florida's still stuck, and they can't seem to get out from under that.
Right. Sad.
And they've changed, Pat. They've changed coaches several times in Miami in the last 15 years.
Oh,
They tried to change coaches all the time.
Right.
Yeah, thinking that is the issue. And, and I do not think that, I mean, you did have some issues down that you want to change, coach, but not as much as they have turned it over. It's definitely that stigma and that situation as Pat, described earlier and have over the years we done talked about it. I think that's the biggest influence of why Miami, Florida's football program has been basically just stuck in the mud, as they say.
They can't get out.
Yeah.
It's like it's not getting better. And that's the sad part of it. It's just not, it's not improving. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. It just keeps, or the light is an oncoming train.
Right.
But that's the problem you have. I mean, and that's when the NCAA, they need, it's going to, like we were talking about, Jim Harbaugh's in trouble with the NCAA, taking an extra benefit, supposedly bought a kid a hamburger, and now they're leaning. See, the thing is, when the NCAA is saying that, not only what they ultimately do is they're showing you what, and they don't get it either. That's how dumb the NCAA is here, is because they don't have the brains to take a step back and say, hey, this is really going to be bad. Let's just forget about this. When this comes out, that continues to make them look not only petty, it makes them to look totally out of touch with reality.
Yeah.
And they don't get it, and they never have gotten it.
Yeah.
Like they blew the whole thing with the NIL, and now they're all complaining that it's out of control. They have themselves to blame because they didn't get out in front of it. They kept trying to fight the courts, and the courts kept slam dunking them and telling them, no, you can't do this. No, you lose. No, no, no. But they kept fighting it until the Supreme Court told them 9-0. You're finished.
Yeah.
The highest court in the land is basically telling you your model stinks. You got to let kids make money, get over it. And now they never got out. Now all of a sudden kids are doing anything they want, getting them all the money that they want.
And they might have had limitations on it.
They
if
could
they'd
have
been
right.
cordial with that situation a long time ago by getting out in front of it. Being cordial, you work on some dynamics of financially how this works together.
Right.
Those things can work, but nope. They don't work together. They want to be head hodge.
They want to dictate. And then what they ran into, then there's states passing laws that were basically telling, no, you've got, these states are all over the board on what kids can do. It's gone by state. Ohio passed the law that says no, NIL is, it's a law. They've got to let kids make money. California started this. And so the NCAA is, and they know they want to limit it or they want to. They can't.
Yeah, they want to.
They want to.
Oh yeah.
But they know they're ultimately not going to be able to because they're going to lose because the courts are looking. See, the courts look at it this way too. The Supreme Court's thinking in the back of their head, we know this. We know these kids are getting money. We know it's not getting taxed. We're going to say they can make money and make it all legitimate because now the government can at least tax it and get their fair share of it.
Right.
Because the money in the envelopes or the money in the gym bag's not getting taxed.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But if the courts basically say you could go ahead and have it all because now you have to, the government can tax it and make money off it.
Absolutely.
And the courts are never going to change that. They're not going to go back because the courts know, and the realization is they know kids are getting money anyway, and there's nothing you could really do. The best thing we could do is at least tax it, make it all legitimate, and let's tax it.
Right. Right. Unbelievable.
So again, it's interesting to see how they're going to ultimately spin the Jim Harbaugh because there's talk about him getting suspended. I don't know who's going to suspend him. He's supposed to be suspended for a couple games because he's not cooperating with the NCAA over the supposedly giving the kid the hamburger.
Well, let me tell you, gentlemen, something. If you look at Michigan's 2023 non-conference schedule, Pat Lucia and Dave Clark could be co-head coaches for a couple of those games, and Michigan's still going to win by 5 or 6 touchdowns going away.
I'm going to say, though, they have got their schedules figured out. You're right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Michigan's figured out the last couple of years, play 8 home games and schedule meatballs in non-conference.
Yeah, like.
And it still works, Lucia. It still works. People still fall for it.
Oh, I know.
You might as well do it. If you keep having the NCAA come around and try to destroy your program, you may need a meatball schedule to be able to.
Well,
they'd be like Miami,
right.
Florida. They'll need a schedule
Here,
like that.
you know,
here,
you know what? So you Irish Mike, you brought up a good point about coaches. How many Miami coaches they've had? They've had 26 in their history, but since basically Coker left in 2006, Randy Shannon, Jeff Stoutland, Al Golden, Larry Scott, Mark Rick, Manny Diaz, and now Mario Cristobal. That's how many coaches they've basically had. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. 8 coaches since 2006.
And guys, you remember Manny Diaz? He's at Penn State now as defense coordinator for James Franklin. But he had accepted. Do you remember he accepted the Temple job, and 4 or 5 days later, Miami offered him a job in Miami, and then he took the Miami job like 5 days later. Do you guys remember that story?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this goes back to your thing, Lucia. All these coaches get mad at players for leaving, and they leave all the time.
Right. Well, it goes to show you, the coaches, either get fired or they leave on their own.
Right.
And like I always tell a coach, grab all the money you can get. There's no alliance, there's no allegiance.
That's why Brian Kelly left Notre Dame 14 months ago. They gave him 10 years, $100 million contract, and Notre Dame was never going to give him 10 years, and they never going to give him 100. I think they wanted to do like a 2 or 3 year extension because he had a contract through 2024. But no, certainly did they want to give him 10 years at age 61, right? That's just not a road they wanted to go down. And that was a money grab for Brian Kelly. And even if he gets fired after 4 years, guys, he's still got $100 million, right?
Yep.
Well, and that's look at Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah.
And
even with Kelly, I know he's not well welcomed at Notre Dame right now, but 5 or 10 years down the road, when all the dust settles, he can go back and get a statue, and the crowd will wave to him and get on their feet and cheer. That's what's going to happen. Not now, but 10 years from now.
Right.
Yeah. Hold on for a minute. That's our music. Time out. Saturday morning sports page.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Dr. Ashdown and Dr. Carnivus have been making Happy Feet in the Mahoning Valley for 35 years. Our offices are located in Cortland, Champion, Austintown, Columbiana, and Howland. Our Howland office has relocated to 8601 East Market Street to the top of the hill. Advanced Podiatry offers sports medicine and treatment plans for all ages. You can also request an appointment online by visiting our website at advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is always a last resort.
Located in Applewood Estates in Boardman Township, the Applewood Swim and Tennis Club offers a pleasant family environment. Choose a membership that meets your needs and enjoy a relaxing venue that includes not only swimming for the family, but also youth activities such as competitive swimming, tennis, and more. Enjoy the friendly atmosphere all summer long with the staff and members of the Applewood Swim and Tennis Club. For more information, go to applewoodswimandtennis.com or call 330-953-2833.
Meet Josh.
Hi, everybody.
Josh is a high school basketball player, solid shooter, great teammate.
Hey, don't forget my tenacious D.
And he's my son.
Oh.
So, what does Josh do to be the best basketball player he can be?
I play tennis.
Studies show that student athletes here in Ohio who play more than one high school sport are more likely to excel. Tennis does more than improve Josh's conditioning. It gives him a fresh competitive outlet, reduces the risk of injury by cross-training, and introduces him to different coaching techniques and new friends.
Don't get me wrong, hoops are my first love. Tennis just gives me a little break.
So when the new season begins, Josh isn't burned out on basketball. He's eager to play, and you can see the difference in his game.
This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Saturday morning sports page coming back at you, 330-707-4202. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. Western Reserve Radio is the station you're listening to. We do the show from the Gessler Propane Studios here in Struthers, Ohio. Dave Clark, we're talking a lot, at least the NCAA, kicking them around a little bit like we like to do. I was just thinking of this. You know, we were talking about when coaches get fired. It's like to play the song, The Backstabbers.
Yeah.
Well, what I heard a song this morning on 70s on 7. It's the Countdown 1974. So that group, the OJs, did that song Backstabbers. Well, now what they should play when they hired the coach, the OJs have that song out, Put Your Hands Together. So maybe when we have a coach hiring, we should play the OJs, Put Your Hands Together.
Yeah.
And when they get fired, we could play the OJs, Backstabbers.
Right.
So the OJs are from Canton, Ohio,
Yes,
too,
they
by
are.
the way.
Yes, yeah.
Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think they should put something in the Pro Football Hall of Fame with the OJs in it, like a, just something.
Right.
Just to, because they're from Canton.
Yeah. Oh,
You could
absolutely.
have the OJs and,
Yeah.
I don't
It's a
think
family.
Roger would appreciate the Backstabbers, and maybe Put Your Hands Together would be okay.
Yeah.
But since the OJs, and that once, and the always the confusion for some, you always have that song, War, what is it good for? That wasn't done by the group War. That was done by Edwin Starr.
Right.
See, some people, War did that song. No, War didn't do that song,
No.
but Edwin Starr did.
Yeah.
And that was a great song too, because I remember that growing up.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
War, yeah.
Uh-huh.
We would always.
Yeah.
That was also made a Seinfeld episode too with the Lane. So just having a little fun with 70s on 7. So
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, any other thing is one of my favorite songs is still Until You Come Back to Me by Aretha Franklin. That was on today. That was a big hit in 74. And I remember that. I was a senior in high school. And so that was the kind of song that I just would listen to and I couldn't get it out of my head. Like I would just constantly
hear
it all the time.
Yeah.
Just one of those songs. But anyway, moving onward and upward. Coaching vacancies in the NFL that have not been filled yet. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the Colts and the problems they have there. I think we talked last week, the owner, he wants to hire Saturday, and the people in the organization are trying to persuade him not to.
Right.
So wait and see how that plays it out. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, I've been hearing this report. There's actually an article in the New York Post, yesterday's Post, that said that Kyler Murray's contract could be scaring off potential head coaching candidates because obviously he's got a contract. I think his guaranteed money is $160 million, and he would get up to 230. And they just can't seem to find a coach because the coaches are kind of leery about taking that job because Murray's hurt. They really don't know if, Murray's going to be a really, good quarterback NFL. He's kind of an ad lib, does his own thing. And some of the coaches, I don't think, want to hitch their wagon to him. So obviously everybody knows the issues he had with Cliff Kingsbury. And kind of fighting all the time about play calling. So I think coaches are getting to the point, especially in the NFL, where you better have a good quarterback, even almost a great quarterback, to succeed. And the Arizona Cardinals have been struggling with Murray. And since they've got all the chips in the table with Kyler Murray, coaches aren't sure if that's really a model of success. They really don't want to hook on or latch their wagon, so to speak, to Kyler Murray. So they seem to be having problems hiring a coach. They've interviewed a list of candidates a mile long. Brian Flores is one of the candidates that they hired. Vance Joseph is also, I believe he is a D coordinator for them, and he's also in the hunt for potentially getting that job. So, but he's a defensive guy. And I think the other problem going on is a lot of these owners are looking for the offensive side of the ball
all the time, yeah.
And they don't want to bring in a defensive guy. Even though we've said this, well, why can't you bring in a defensive guy and let him go get a great coordinator, work with your quarterback?
Yeah. And why wouldn't I, when I interview these guys, if they're interviewing for head coaching jobs, knowing how they do things, I think they'll be ahead of the game by already having an idea of who they will assemble to their staffs if they're hired. So I'm thinking if I'm bringing someone in an interview, they have already talked to several candidates to bring in as their offensive coordinator, whatever it is. They have already talked to somebody. So when they talk for this new job, they can also say, hey, if you hire me, I definitely want to be able to bring in my guy, an offensive coordinator who knows, hey, we're dealing with Kyler Moore, whoever it is, and then they'll be ready to deal with that situation. I like you just said, I don't understand why you hire if it's a defensive guy that's your best candidate, hire him. But you make sure an offensive guy is also a major thing, and you get both at the same time. Now, this guy that you hire might have his own idea of who his offensive coordinator he wants him to be. But if you have a guy that you're thinking too, then maybe I can discuss it, see if it can work out that way. But you should always have, if you're thinking offensively, bring in a guy. Just bring in a guy that can do the job, that has a great track record, as an offensive coordinator. Like the Jets did, go and get Hackett. Hackett, terrible at head coach as far as delegating, time management, everything, and on his side is to be devil advocate, being on his side. First time being a coach. So you may make those mistakes of, clock management, different things. First time ever doing it. But we know he's been a successful offensive coordinator.
Right.
He learned from one of the best in his dad as
Right.
offensive coordinator.
Paul.
So, yeah. So, I mean, he knows what to do. So, that's what you got to do. You got to you can't be waiting till you find an offensive guy. Now you're going down the ranks. You might go and get a college guy. He's a great offensive coordinator in college football. Pro football is completely different.
Yeah, it's a different animal. Pro football. When you really break it down, it's like you have the head coach, but you have a GM and an owner, and they can be very involved in what goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a business. You're dealing with athletes,
right?
Getting paid, and they have contracts. It's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah.
College, as we say, they get paid, but it's a different dynamic.
Yeah.
But you don't have the GM and the owner. You have a president, but usually the president has got other things that he's not involved with what you're doing as a coach in the college ranks. However, in the pro ranks, usually you definitely have the GM who's involved, and because his job is also always on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll fire you in a New York minute in the NFL.
Right.
So then you have an owner, depending on what owner you have.
Yeah.
As we mentioned with Irsay, who wants to be coach and GM too, I believe. He's doing what he wants to do, and he's firing coaches and getting rid of people because what he told them to do doesn't work out, so he blames them, like he did with Frank Reich and the quarterback situation. So you've got that dynamic in the pros. So if you're looking at it from a comparison between college and pro, they're realistically whole different models, and they are coaching players. That's where the similarity ends. As far as the hierarchy lays out, pro is just totally, like I said, you got way too many people involved. And now what they were saying too, with these two positions, the Cardinals and the Colts not having coaches yet, is because the owners are getting people to interview, and they're having other people involved in the interview process, and they're interviewing many just a length of candidates, a list a mile long. And again, the Cardinals' problem is because candidates are kind of worried about Kyler Murray's contract and all the money they have, the team committed to him, and they're not really sure he's really the quarterback they want to be tied to. Yeah. So they're leery about taking the job. And I think that's one problem, because a coach is going to want to come in and still want to, dictate what the offense is doing, what the quarterback is doing. And that might be a problem because Murray seems to want to do his own thing. And so coaches come in and say, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. And then, and then I wonder if it's all, at least that's the perception they give us, is he wanted to do that. And a lot of times for a coach or the player, I'm not going to believe all that's out there. But you can, if you are a candidate and you want to go there, you look at film. I would be studying Kyler Murray, and he has had numerous successful stints within the NFL. He done had some seasons where he was really good for a long period of time. Then things would always break down at the end.
He falls off.
And things break down. So take those sample sizes and find out what he does well, and you make that into a package and make sure that's part of his package that he runs. And then whatever you need to add to it, where you both could collaborate in doing that. And then this way you have a quarterback, he can be successful in what he's doing. And then he's doing some things that he likes, and you give him that little bit of freedom to know that we're going to input some of the things you like, especially to do. And he got to understand that it is a business. So you find a guy that wants to do that. When I see guys shy away because of a player, it really it puzzles me with some coaches.
Yeah, when you look at the Arizona Cardinal, with Kingsbury as their head coach in 2019, he was 5-10-1. Went to 8-8, 11-6, and then last year they fell off the table. They're 4-13.
Right.
So they have to decide, I think, how good is the roster, and then the other issue you're going to have with Kyler Murray, can he play next year? Or here's your other dilemma: is by the time he gets that knee back from the ACL, say like the team is starting off, and so I'll just say, how about if the team is 2-8 or 2-9, and then Murray's now ready to play. The season's lost. Do you play him? Do you play him and let him play the last 5 games of a season that is basically gone? Or do you say, let him sit out the season, let him continue to rehab the ACL, and then look at the year after that? So if you're a coach, you're thinking, I am in a situation maybe next year could be a real trick bag of a year. Or let me give you this case scenario. You go out, you get a quarterback. You end up playing. You end up doing good. And now you're winning. Say like the other side of the coin. Say like you're 8-1 or 8-2. You're in first place. You got the quarterback, whoever it is. Now, what do? You bring Murray back in, or you leave him. If he's ready to play, you might not want to play him because you don't want to upset that apple cart either. Because if you're 8-2 and you're in first place and it looks like, hey, we're getting into the playoff, blah, 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 it's going good. I don't think I want to bring in Kyler Murray now because this current quarterback I've got is winning. And the team is, all those great things, team's unified, everything's going good. I don't want to upset the apple cart. Then the other debate is do we want Kyler Murray long-term now because this guy's doing really good and he gets us to the playoffs and he wins a game or two? What do you then? You go into the next season and bench him? Now, granted, I don't know what the Cardinals are going to do for a quarterback next year, and that could be do you write it off as a throwaway year till Murray gets back? But do you bring Murray back if the year's in the proverbial gutter? See, if you're a coach and you walk into that situation, you're thinking that. You should be. I would be. If I was thinking, okay, I walk into this situation, what do I do? I mean, what do I do? I've got to win games. I'm not going to tank next year. Look what happened to Wilkes out there. Yeah. He went 3-13. They told him start of the year, don't worry about it. Okay. He did what he could, did a good job, I think, all in all with the roster. They fired him.
Yeah, and I believe that was the plan. I don't really.
Then why hire? I mean, why hire?
That's why they had so much of the protests, a lot of the things that was going on, because they believed that was their plan in the first place of getting who they wanted at coach. Couldn't get him right then, so hey, we just throw this guy in there. He's going to be the scapegoat. They don't win, he's out. And they probably were hoping don't win, so we can get him out of there, and that's what they did. Because even though they were 3-13. It was a different type of 3-13, very competitive 3-13. They played tough.
They played hard, and the roster wasn't good.
And the roster that's the thing about it. So this guy's coaching well, to be able to compete in these games with that roster.
Right.
But I think they already know the writing was on the wall, and he's been used. And that's why I said even in Carolina, I wanted Frank Reich to get another job. I hate that it's at the expense of Steve Wilkes.
Right.
Because of the job he done.
Right. Because he's proved to us twice, especially with Carolina, to walk in midseason and go 6-6 and almost win the division, compete for it in an interim basis, I think is like how do you not? I was like, how do you not give him a job? And then they go, well, they went with the offense. Well, I mean, went with offensive coach. Well, why don't you leave Wilkes there? Because you want I think you want to keep the stability, and then either look at an offensive coordinator and let Wilkes coach the team because they played hard for him.
Right.
But they don't do that. And now there's more. See, what I think the big problem with the NFL coaching is they have way too much turnover. And I don't think sometimes they should.
Yeah.
And I think if you hire a coach for 1 year and you fire him, that's a reflection on you, not the coach.
Well, and I think they have tunnel vision, because if I have a young quarterback that I think got the potential to be good, I can't keep firing coaches.
Right.
I can't keep doing it, because every time I fire him, it's another system. Now this guy is so far back in his development, it's unbelievable. Sometimes they ruin their career by doing that. So you got to have a well-rounded look at things. And I think you can't just be firing guys to be firing them.
No.
Just 1 year and that's it. You got to give them an opportunity, to continue. And it's hard to hire a new coach and say, hey, we're staying with our same offensive guys we got in here, and because they want to bring in their own staff. So it's you really got to be real diligent in what you're doing, especially when you got a young quarterback. People say Sam Darnold's not good or whatever. I don't know how good he is. 50,000 offensive coordinators. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. And that's the thing with Sam Darnold. I don't know either.
Baker Mayfield, how good is he?
I don't know.
I don't know how good he could be, because he's always having
he's
different
had
guys.
Baker Mayfield's had, I mean, how many different coaches, how many offensive coordinators? Yeah. I mean, both he and Darnold have gone through offensive coordinators and coaches. You're right. I don't know how good.
I don't know.
They really are. I mean, I've seen Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield did show to us that if he's healthy and he has a good team around him, he can lead the team to a playoff like he did with Cleveland.
Yeah.
So he has shown you.
Yeah, he done show me both sides.
He could show you both sides.
Yeah, I done seen it where he led, and then I seen where he still had a good team around him. He was pressed.
He
not
struggled.
when he was hurt, but he just not that, because I write that off. He should have never been
playing.
playing.
That year I subtract that from the formula.
I just look at other games in which he was healthy and playing and looked like he'd reverted, but they were switching coordinators and coaches all doing this. I mean, it was crazy.
I would like to see, in Baker's defense, get a situation where you have a coach like a Kyle Shanahan, offensive coordinator stability, walk in, and you're being healthy. I think he would be a okay quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. Speaking of quarterbacks, we didn't even talk about this. This is how bad we are. Brady retired, which I don't know, comes as a real surprise. Doesn't to me. I thought he probably should have retired. He just wasn't, you could see the game wasn't the same. He was struggling with Tampa Bay at times. He didn't look good. He retired. He's 45.
And I think he had too much going on.
Yeah.
There was too much going on he's a laser focused type of guy playing the game. And even though they would say, oh, he's focused.
No.
Now, when you got that much personal situations going around, you're human. You're not a robot. You got feelings, you got different things. I can't see him being the same laser-focused guy that he's always been. And I think that had a lot to do with his performance.
Could be.
I mean, he was, because some games I've seen him, it's like, oh, man, he looks great.
He looks great.
And another time, it wasn't that he looked old. It looked like he was just not into it.
Like the Dallas game, that last game was...
He didn't look like he was right.
No.
So, I mean, it was probably the best thing for him is to do it. The only thing I thought that Mike would bring him back, I didn't think he would want to leave after a season ending the way it ended.
He would want to make it good or like kind of like right the ship.
Yeah.
Would he go back to Tampa Bay? Supposedly now it comes out that if he was going to play, he was going to play for Tampa Bay. People were thinking he's going to go to the Raiders. He was going to go. Well, San Francisco's situation has now changed out there since Brock Purdy's shoulder. It's a torn UCL.
Mm-hmm.
So he's out at least 6 months, probably longer. He may be on the shelf next year. Now you have Trey Lance with an ankle, and Lynch, the GM, came out this week when someone asked him a question about could you see Jimmy Garoppolo in a San Francisco 49er uniform? And he goes, no.
Yeah.
No, like flat out.
No.
Like he didn't say, well, we consider it. No. It appears that San Francisco has made a decision.
Yeah.
They are moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a free agent. They're not interested in him on any level and let him go.
Right.
So now they're going to go into next season. Brock Purdy may not be able to play. He's not going to be ready for spring training in the NFL or their summer, or however you're going to call it.
Yeah.
Point is, so now you're going to have Trey Lance.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming off of an ankle. Trey Lance has not played a lot.
Right.
In the last 4 or 5 years, the man hasn't played a lot of football. He's your guy.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to roll Trey Lance out, and you're going to say, okay, you're the guy coming forward. We're going with you. And, maybe Brock Purdy will, probably be the backup when he's ready to play.
Yeah.
Which he might not be.
Yeah, may not. But that's
know.
That's what I would do, though.
I
get it when they said no.
No.
You can't keep playing the Jimmy Garoppolo train every year. You just allow him to go.
Right.
Because you got to look at reality and future. You got to go with the guys. These two guys, you have to go with them.
You got to go with them.
So one thing I think would help Trey Lance is that you hate that he got hurt, but he got hurt in the second game of the season.
Right.
He was able to sit and then was always engaged
in the game.
And they were allowing him to do the talking to the quarterbacks and stuff. They don't understand how much that's going to help him coming for next season. And Shanahan is pretty good character of guy, especially quarterback.
Right.
I think he knows he has a guy. He just needs the experience of playing.
He's comfortable with rolling him out.
That's why I even think, and not to switch off anything, but that's why I think the Packers are thinking strongly about Jordan Love.
Right.
Because the last little sample size they had him in, he looked
He
completely
looked good.
different than that other
he was
guy.
a different Jordan Love from a year.
Yeah, a completely different guy. You might have to say it's at the same time that Brett Favre was traded. Exact same time, 18th season. That's when they got rid of and he took over. Same thing here. So, it works out perfectly. Rodgers goes somewhere else or retire, and they get something for him. That's all you could do right now. It might be time to Jordan Love train. They need to do something because if they keep Aaron Rodgers again, would Jordan Love want to stay there? I don't know.
Well, they would have to
choice.
pick up his don't they have to extend the contract? His rookie contract isn't that coming up? I got to look that up
because that's what it is.
I think the Packers have to make a decision.
Yeah.
On his rookie contract, do they give him the extension? The guy hasn't played.
And if you give him that extension with more money involved, that's going to hurt where you need to strengthen some other areas on your team.
Because you're paying Rodgers $50 million.
Yeah, you have to make a decision. We already know what you call it, Woody Johnson, his whole
he's opened up his checkbook.
That thing is wide open, just waiting. Now I'm sure the Raiders stuff is going to come up. Rodgers already said he would not go to San Fran. So he said he would not go there because people started, what about? He said he wouldn't go there. So I think it's Raiders
or the Jets.
I really believe that.
Or since Brady retired,
or Tampa Bay. Don't
maybe
leave him out.
Tampa.
That's a dark horse. I believe that too.
Or does Green Bay go, we're keeping him another year?
Yeah. But what you do with Jordan Love? Are you going to pay him?
I think you probably think about how we have to look it up. I think you'd have to extend him a year.
Yep.
I don't know if they let go. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
That's the music. We'll be back after a quick timeout. Western Reserve Radio, Saturday morning sports page.
You're listening to Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge, a part of the Sports Map Radio Network.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier that makes sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
The Youngstown Phantoms and Cedar Rapids Rough Riders are taking it outside. Thursday, February 23rd at 6:05, it's the USHL Cleveland Classic presented by Winmark from First Energy Stadium in Cleveland. It's the first outdoor game in Phantoms history, and we need you to be there. Tickets are just $25. Call the Phantoms box office at 330-747-PUCK for tickets or more information. That's 330-747-7825 or visit youngstownphantoms.com.
I just keep it.
Saturday morning sports page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark, 330-707-4202. It's the second half of the show. It is Western Reserve Radio is the station you're listening to. We do the show at the Gessler Propane Studio in Struthers, Ohio, Dave Clark.
Yes.
Just south of downtown Struthers.
Right.
Anyway, southwest of Struthers. The proximity of the show. Exactly where does this show take place? Maybe we could do it out in the parking lot. Well, not today.
Not today.
Maybe
Won't
in
do
the
that
summer.
today. Yeah.
Work on that. What's the read? He's saying they're going to do this. Oh, there was no show February 18th. They're redoing our studio. So,
Okay.
maybe we should think about doing it outside. It's a little cold February 18th. I know it's going to be a warmer than normal February, but not that warm.
You heard that in the background. She said we can do it.
Yeah, we can't. Right. Sure. That's okay.
You're looking live.
Yeah, you're looking live out here.
And frozen statues.
Yeah, I was going to say we would be the frozen statue. They'll be complaining. Oh, God. Talk about outside. Now, if it was August, I'd be all for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, you could definitely do it then. But getting back to the serious news in the world of sports, Derek Carr has no plans to extend his February 15th deadline in his contract. That would trigger a $40.4 million in future guaranteed money to help facilitate a trade from Las Vegas. Carr came out and said, I do not think that's best for me. So he is obviously saying that's the deadline. February 15th deadline marks the date in which $40.4 million in injury guarantees become fully guaranteed. Having the date a month before the new league year and free agency open puts the onus on the Raiders to make a decision. So it says, can they agree to trade before the deadline? ? Do they cut Carr before the deadline to avoid the guarantees? Or do they allow the date to pass in hopes of figuring out down the road. Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like they're probably going to either trade him or cut him before the 15th would be my bet.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to pay the $40.4
so.
million, so they would trade him, and then another team would obviously have to pay him that.
Right. Now, do you allow him to get the $44 million because you've talked to Green Bay, and now you can do a trade of him and Rodgers plus
swap?
Swap quarterbacks, I'm sure, draft picks and other things of that nature. Maybe even cash, other players, whatever. But that's something you got to get in stone before you do this.
Then I think you answer another question. If you do that, then I think you got to cut Jordan Love loose.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to bring Derek Carr, and obviously you're telling Jordan Love,
it's
been
young.
nice.
Yeah.
We're gonna trade you. I would think they would want to trade Jordan Love then to another team. Maybe now the Tampa Bay question with Brady retiring, that obviously leaves a hole in that. The rumors was he was going to Brady was going to go to San Francisco. He was going to go to the Raiders. Well, no, not now. So what do the Raiders do? Do they make the trade for Rodgers, or now they're going to need a quarterback? Tampa Bay needs a quarterback. Do they roll out with Kyle Trask next year and see how that goes for the team? You're sitting in a situation. You fired all your offensive coordinators. Everybody on the offense pretty much got fired in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Yep.
So now Todd Bowles is faced with rebuilding, going out, getting the coordinator, building the offense, and now, does he want to bring in a veteran quarterback and see if Kyle Trask is the guy, or look at potentially, do they trade up in the draft and take one of these quarterbacks, or wait next year to see how it plays out? But then if Todd Bowles has a bad year, is he going to get fired?
Yeah.
Because, that'll be 2 years. He went 8-9 this year. And then if he goes 8-9 next year, or 7-10, they don't make the playoffs, do they fire? Or if you roll out Kyle Trask and he's really not the guy, and now you're going into next year, potentially with a situation where you don't have a quarterback, or do you make a trade and get a Baker Mayfield? You
could.
If you bring Baker Mayfield, he might be the best quarterback in that division. Because he's better than Andy Dalton. He's probably, I don't know if he's probably better than Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's close, but he probably is healthy. So, basically that leaves you hanging in Atlanta's situation. He probably would be better. So, I mean, if Baker Mayfield could come into play on some of these, but then you're faced, how much do you want to pay him? And then you get situation where, do you want to pay him 30-40 million? Like, what do the Giants do with Daniel Jones? Do they pay him 40 million or 30 million to be their quarterback?
And I think they definitely want to give him
They want
to.
Now, how much do they want to,
Yeah. They want to keep him.
And it looks like Dak Prescott's there he's there.
Yeah,
Dak Prescott's not going because Steve Jones came out and says, no, Dak's the quarterback of the future. They're talking about maybe extending his contract.
Right. And one of the reasons of doing that, though, it's sad, but I do get why. Because if they don't, the reason they're trying to extend it and get rid of some of the money that they have is now they can build their team and give some of the other guys they need to extend now to keep them around. Because if they leave it like it is, and he keeps getting this larger sum, some of the guys, guys, they're going to have to make decisions. They don't want to do that.
Right. If they put it on a long-term deal, they could give money up front, and they play around where then they could extend it over the period of the contract and won't take. Peter King was on the other day with Mad Dog Russo, and he was and they were explaining that. And I think it was Brady Quinn was talking about it too, how they, with the quarterback contract, if they don't have to go, if they get him a long-term deal and they can give the guaranteed up front, then they could put it over the life of the contract. so it doesn't count against the cap, and then it's just dead cap money, and they finagle, but then it opens up the door of signing players you need to sign. Like Patrick Mahomes' contract has a 10-year, $459 million, but that money is just so strung out that's really cap friendly to the team.
Right.
So it's better, like for Bengals, if you sign Joe Burrow to that kind of a deal where you make it a 10-year deal and you can like put the money, backload it, put it around, guarantee it, where it's not counting against the cap. They could get very creative with that.
Right.
The franchise tag, they can't. You tag somebody, bingo. That amount, like with Lamar Jackson, we get back, well, what are the Ravens going to do? Because you're getting back to once you franchise tag him.
Do you think he's going to be there? Because I think the dark horse of all teams, they don't talk about it, but I think they're just sitting there waiting. And I think that's the Atlanta Falcons. And bringing in a guy that reminds them of number 7 at quarterback. I really believe they're sitting there because that, what you just said, I don't think Baltimore wants to deal with that hard cap amount. And it doesn't look like things are moving forward and getting a long-term contract. So I think trades, I think Atlanta, I think Miami, all these things is right there. I just think I don't know if he's going to be a Baltimore Raven next season.
I'm not.
You see all the mock drafts?
No, no.
Most of a lot of the mock drafts I've been looking at has them taking a quarterback in the first round.
Baltimore.
And
so
I've
they're
been tripping the last couple. I kept looking. I said, "Wow,
why are they taking a quarterback?"
And you know, a lot of these guys, especially now, some of them just don't have much to do with the NFL. I don't pay attention, but when I see it's like executives is doing, I know they got some inside information somewhere. They're hearing something, and why would they still continue to show mock drafts with them taking a quarterback in the first round? Makes me think it's something writings on the wall.
If Baltimore's taking a quarterback in the first round, they're moving on from Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it's going to be tag him and trade him. That could be.
Yeah, that's possible.
They could do a tag him and then trade him, or they trade him and let let him negotiate with the team they're trading and get that. You know, they always do that where they're going to trade him. So they call the team up and say, okay, let's agree on quote the deal. Then you negotiate with Lamar on the contract, and the team, once they get the agreement, the trade's announced, and a day later, Lamar Jackson's signing a long-term deal with this team that he's now going to. It's almost like the trade, and then he signs the deal because that's already worked out ahead of time. So if they get the agreement of draft choices, et cetera, whatever they need to work it out, and then the team will, sign Lamar Jackson to a big deal. However, and they'll work out that contract. Now, Lamar supposedly wants the guaranteed money that Deshaun Watson got. So maybe he gets that on a short-term deal, or maybe the team sits him down and say, now let's do a long-term deal, put more money in it, give you like a 5 or 7 year deal worth $350,000, and then spread the money out like we talk about. Maybe he would go for that, where he may get the money. He's going to get the money he wants. It's just going to be different.
Right.
But he's going to get that amount he's looking for guaranteed.
Yeah.
But they're going to extend it over like a 7-year deal.
Yeah.
You're going to ultimately get your $230 guaranteed, but we're going to spread it out on a $350,000 deal over 7 or 8 years. But you're going to get guaranteed money will be that amount. And he might say, okay, I'll take it.
And if he wants, he doesn't want to destroy that core of the team that has a chance of winning.
Right.
Then maybe they can work that out. Another interesting, I haven't seen anything on this, but I wondered. I said, I don't think Tannehill will be back in Tennessee.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are under that impression. That's me. Another, we haven't talked about that.
There?
Could Lamar go to Tennessee?
Because you got the young guy. He could be,
Willis, he could be the bridge. Or,
Yeah, and he wouldn't be a bridge.
They say Willis is pure raw.
Yeah, he is.
Man, he's just pure raw talent. Didn't play he played at Liberty, not a top level, but I mean, there's ability. It's just pure raw. He needs a couple years to develop, maybe 2 to 3 years do they do a Lamar Jackson
I mean,
for 3 years and they work out a contract with him?
the offseason is always, as we say, we used to just think NFL season.
No,
it's all
12
year long.
months. The NFL has taken over, but it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Because the reason why the NFL has taken over 12 months is because people want that. It's demand, it's supply and demand. It's like people are infatuated with the NFL. They love football, but they love the NFL, and they love all this stuff that we talk about, like the free agents, the quarterbacks, the Cardinals' job being open, the coach position, who's coaching where, what are the Colts going to do for a quarterback now? Arizona's in a real trick bag because Kyler Murray may not be, obviously he's not going to be back at the beginning of the season.
Sure.
What happens, what are they going to do for a quarterback? Nobody wants to throw a year away.
Right.
Because they just don't do that anymore. There's way too much money.
Right.
So, they don't throw and now we didn't even get to DeMeco Ryans now going to be the Houston coach.
Yeah. Yes. Hopefully.
Should he be concerned?
Yeah. Well,
you talk about the backstabbers. They are. That's when you look it up in the dictionary. The Houston Texans, man, they're the ultimate.
Oh, man.
You bring in Cully. He does a great the guys love playing for him. Got the team going in the right direction. You bring him in, you fire him. But then you talk to Lovie Smith, and you think, hey, Lovie Smith's the guy. He's got the, blah, blah, blah. Fire him after 1 year. Now, DeMeco Ryans.
Oh, man, unbelievable.
But he's
a young guy, so that's all I can say. Maybe he can absorb this a lot better.
One thing you got to do with Cully and Lovey, you got to pay them.
Yeah,
they get all that money.
That's why DeMeco, he might can go.
I think DeMeco's got a 7-year deal.
Yes, I think it's 7 years, and this guy.
I think DeMeco got a 7-year deal.
I mean, you can't fire him. You can't be paying 3 and 4 coaches. Because
that's what I mean. If you hire and fire DeMeco Ryans, you'd have to get another coach. You'd be paying 4 coaches.
Yeah, and if I'm a guy, I don't want to go there.
No,
you got all these people to pay. Is something going to happen where you're going to be in bad financial ruins? And am I going to get on? I mean, all kind of things. You think, well, the monster is the NFL. You believe the money will always be there, but you got to have concerns when you got to pay that many coaches. You're paying 2 coaches right now, and now it'll be a third. Well, it is a third because they didn't hire DeMeco Ryans. So you got 3 coaches to pay.
You're paying 3 guys. You're paying Cully. You're paying Lovey, and now you're paying DeMeco. Now, here's the problem you have, too, and this is the obvious question, is he's a black man. Are they going to fire him? Then they're going to have 3 black coaches they fired year, right after one another.
See, that's...
Now, am I the only person that
spotlight is on them?
Right.
They better not do it because there's going to be some...
Right.
There's going to be some major issues going around.
The minority coaches you keep firing after 1 year. The NFL doesn't look good. They did. Wilkes got fired after 1 year, minority candidate. And you fired Cully, and all these guys were coaching good. Everybody said, well, these guys are really good coaches. The team loves them. They're playing for them. They're very competitive. They're just losing these games, close games. But the guys fight, and you could see that they love playing for the head coach. They love playing for the roster weren't the greatest rosters, but the guys went out there and they laid it on the line, and they were competitive as all get out. And they love playing for Lovie Smith. They love playing for Cully, and and in Carolina, love playing for Wilkes.
Yeah. I mean, you knew they loved playing when Lovey, like you said, the word went out that he was fired before that last game.
Yeah, he was. Supposedly the word was he got fired before the game, and he knew it. So all those guys said, okay, we're going to go out and we want to win this game, i.e. maybe they'll lose the number 1 pick.
And they did.
And they did.
Screwed them.
And that owner was down on the sideline walking around like a whipped dog with his head down because he was mad because he lost the number 1 pick.
That's good.
That couldn't happen to a better guy.
Yeah. Now he may still get it by trading.
Well,
but
he
it's
might
costing
have,
him
but
something.
he's going to have to work for it. It's
That's
not going to
right.
be given to
That's
him
right.
now.
It's going to cost.
Right.
Him. So it's just unbelievable
So
they would do that, but you get tired of it. And believe me, they're under a microscope. That's 2 in a row. We done seen other candidates have worse years, and maybe not by wins. They might have been 5-12, 5-11, but the teams were not competitive. They were terrible, and they'll be invited back for another season.
It's 6 years. D'Amico Ryans is a 6-year contract.
Well,
so
he better at
he
least
signed a 6-year deal. It's the third longest tenured coach in the franchise history, should it last all the way through. So why is it? Why such a long-term deal? And I think basically it came down to D'Amico Ryans probably getting to say, hey, you want me, I want a deal. You're not going to get rid of, you're not going to give me a 3-year deal. I want 6 years.
Yeah. I bet you that was in the negotiations.
Yeah, but I'm sure it was, no doubt.
I done seen what done happen.
Right.
He probably told him proverbial spotlight is on you guys. You see what you've been doing?
Yeah. Your trend is not good.
Right.
Your fire coaches after 1 year who happen to be minority head coaches, by the way.
Give me 6.
I want
or
6.
I'm going out in Denver.
Right. And they went with the now I was going to say, yeah, they went with not Sean McVay. They
Sean Payton.
Sean Payton.
But at
so
the
they got
time,
Payton.
I don't think they had hired Sean yet, had they?
No, they had
first.
not.
They were
D'Amico
still-
was first, and then they ultimately, when Denver lost out on him, and they supposedly, rumor had it, they wanted Harbaugh.
Yeah, that's what they really wanted.
That's who they really wanted, and he didn't want them. So ultimately, they took Sean Payton because they had to give up the draft choice. They had to give up a first round and a second round.
Yeah.
So they had to give up compensation to New Orleans, and I think they didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
They would have seen, because they could have hired Harbaugh or D'Amico Ryans and not get into that situation with compensation.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Harbaugh, I mean, I think if he wants to continue coaching for some years to go, I think he's going to come back to NFL.
I think ultimately he will.
Yeah, I think he's not going to. He don't feel like dealing with this NCAA.
No,
but you know
not with
that. But you know what? I do think he likes raking them over the coals a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not cooperating. I'm not doing anything.
No, he's not.
On purpose. They're giving him as much grief as he can. And then he'll come back to the NFL.
Well, he has that in his hip pocket.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that.
He knows he'll get hired. As you said earlier in the New York Minute, or somebody hire him. He says, if he coaches Michigan next year, and after that he says, I'm going to NFL. Oh, yeah. Suitors will be there.
Denver. Okay. People think, turning things around in Denver. Do you people realize when you look at the Denver losses, like, let me tell you, okay, they lost the first game to Seattle 17-16, right? 1 point. They lost a game to Indianapolis Colts 12-9. They lost to the Chargers 19-16. They lost to the Jets 16-9. They lost to Tennessee 17-10. The Raiders 22-16. Baltimore 10-9. Kansas City 34-28. They were blown out by the Rams, but they lost to Kansas City again 27-24.
Yeah. This is the thing about them.
Think just for a minute.
10. Not one of them was
score
double digits.
games.
Yep. None of them was double digits.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 one-score games. And I believe 3 or 4 of these were overtime games. They lost 8 games by less than 7 points.
That was this past season, correct?
Past season.
And
5-12.
I forgot who the coach was for them.
Nathaniel Hackett was their coach.
Oh, yeah.
They lost those games, 7 games, by less than 7 points, one score.
Yeah.
Sean Payton comes in. You look at those losses, you look at that team. Russell Wilson, we all mentioned, since they fired Nathaniel Hackett, he seemed to be looking better. Point is this, I don't think that's a big turnaround. I don't think he has to do a lot. You were that competitive in all those games.
I mean, tweaking.
Right.
They're going to be on point.
They're on point.
Might be a very big time contender for that.
Right. When you look at that division and you look at Denver, but when you look at their losses, throw the Ram out because that was Christmas. That's different. But when you look at their losses, I rattled them off. When you count them, they were all, they lost to the Raiders 32-23. That was more than 7.
But still not double digit.
But no,
29.
but it wasn't double digit. The only other double digit loss that they had is Carolina 23-10 and the Rams. That's it. So if you want to go use double digits, they had 2 losses by double digits. That's 10 losses. And then I believe the 8 of the losses were within 7 points, one score.
They're gonna
so
be right
there's
there.
not a big gap there between turning that team and getting that team to win games. Those games are easily one score either way. They win.
Well, the thing about it is that's with Hackett, who seemed incompetent at times. And now you flip it back a year back from that. And Vic Fangio, he shouldn't have been released.
No, he shouldn't have been either.
He had a whole bunch of one-score games, the same thing that you just rattled
and they didn't
off.
have a quarterback
They
then.
they was playing with guys.
Fangio didn't have a quarterback.
Yeah. You remember they had the one guy play quarterback that they had to put in there at quarterback? The receiver?
Yeah, the receiver because of the COVID.
Yeah. You got all kinds of things.
You had all
kinds.
kinds.
Rid of him.
Right.
He did an excellent job with that. When Ross was fine, he did good.
Right. Fangio was
Under the
actually a
situation.
good head coach.
And got rid of him.
And they fired him.
So, I think Sean Payton, yes, he's going to tweak it to his style, but that's all he needs. A couple little things.
I think
they're going to call him what this great. It's not going to be
you don't need an overhaul.
No, not at all.
You have the team.
And we've seen with my own eyes, and you too, that Russell Wilson, looked completely
He did look
in those
different.
last
He looked
3 or 4 games.
when he got
just like that's the same guy. That
looked
guy
like
earlier
the same
was
guy
terrible.
earlier who was struggling.
He was running in at the end. He was making
Yeah,
plays
he was
out of
making
the pocket
plays.
like he used to do. I don't know. We'll find out this coming season.
So Sean Payton's probably walked into a pretty good deal.
I really believe so.
Because I think that's going to be a place he could win and not have to radically change the roster. And, again, when you look at those losses and you see how close they were, people are saying, oh, Denver's terrible. No, they're not. Not a bad football team.
No.
When you lose 8 games by 1 score or less, you were 5-12.
Yeah.
How about if you win 4 of them or 5 of them? Now you're 10-7 if you win 5 of those.
Yeah.
The point is that's not a big gap between losing and winning there with Denver. So, again, you get back to that. They hired Sean Payton. I think it'll work out. That's where, he was evidently he didn't really want to go back to the booth. People were speculating he would go back to the booth and wait another year. He obviously did not want to do that. And I think he sees Russell Wilson, the Denver situation. He saw how close those games and how close the team was in every game. He figures, hey.
Yeah, and he sees it. This guy can still throw the ball, and he knows what he did with Drew Brees, even when his
career,
his arm was
the arm was right.
Still was able to win with him. He'll be able to.
So he knows that he's walking into a pretty good deal.
Oh yeah, he knows it.
And the roster's got to be pretty good because they were in every game, pretty much this year, except for the Ram game was and they fired Hackett after that. That was the bad game.
And Vic Fangio, you want to know how big he was? Sean Payton was upset. They said was visibly upset that he couldn't get him to come back to Denver.
Yeah,
he
wanted him because
Miami got him.
Miami got him.
Yep.
We have to talk about them too.
Yep.
Oh, Kyrie. We guess we'll get to Kyrie.
Oh, we can't leave Kyrie out. Kyrie.
Timeout, Saturday morning sports page.
Sandrock Concrete specializes in all types of concrete, driveways, sidewalks, basements, and garages. We also do stamped colored concrete in many different designs. We do interior and exterior stonework, regular brick and block work. Sandrock Concrete is fully insured. Call Jerry Sandrock at 330-506-0013 for an estimate. Also find them on Facebook at Sandrock Concrete LLC. Sandrock Concrete, where you deal with the owner all the time.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Question. When you walk into the boardrooms of the most successful companies here in Ohio, who do you meet? Answer. Men and women who played high school sports. Education-based high school sports give us more than athletes we can root for. They give us leaders we can depend on. Question. So where will we find tomorrow's leaders? Answer. High school sports.
This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Saturday morning sports page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark, 330-707-4202. We do kind of want to get, I know we're focusing in a lot with the NFL and the quarterbacks and coaching. We'll get to Kyrie here just a bit, but in the Nets and the kind of that potential debacle, what it's Kyrie, and Kyrie always creates a lot of stuff when he goes to teams. And he's a great player. I would say Kyrie's probably top 5 player in the NBA when he's playing, at least when I see him. When he's playing and he's playing good like he is for the Nets right now, he's definitely a top 5 player in the league.
Right.
Okay. Miami Dolphins. You have Fangio now as your defensive coordinator. Let's open up that door since we were kind of just the Denver. Peyton couldn't get Fangio to Denver to be his D coordinator. Would have been weird. He was the head coach there. But I'm sure with a different owner, they could have, they always kiss and make up. Just give him more money. That's
right.
all. Money takes care of everything. Mm-hmm. Lap on another $1 million in Fangio. Said, all right, I'll coach. Right. I know you fired me, but if you're going to guarantee me $3 million or $4 million to be a coordinator and give it to me for 3 years, I'll go. Mm-hmm. I know you canned me, but but they're still paying him, so they're probably talk about a mess. I'm sure they all figure that out. Miami, what do? Do we keep kind of feel like poking the bear a little bit with Lamar Jackson trade? Mm-hmm. Poke that a little bit. Can Lamar Jackson be a Miami Dolphin? Do they work out a trade? They Tua finally passed or concussion protocol this week. Right. Finally. Mm-hmm. People were shocked by it. The man had 3 concussions. I figured it was going to take him at least a month.
That we know of.
We know of. Right. What do they do next year? If you're Miami, do you roll Tua out again? Do you keep him? I got to pull up the contract because I think his contract's got to become, him and Justin Herbert were traded. Their contracts will be coming. I think they got to decide if they want to extend them or not.
Yeah.
So obviously Herbert's going to get extended by San Diego or Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
But what did the Dolphins do with Tua?
I hate to be insensitive, but as a bit now, looking at it as the man Tua, the guy plays for you, plays hard, does what he can, does good, has showed a great improvement. For that, you want to pay him. Now let's look at it on the business side of it. I can't see me investing X amount of dollars and extending him. And the guy could take one hit and not to the head because he's got concussions just by his body getting jarred.
Well, look what happened in the game. Was it Johnson, the quarterback for San Francisco, went in? You saw he go down and banged his head into the carpet.
Yeah.
And you could say he was concussed.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to
They said he had. Well, they did say he had that plus the arm and shoulder situation or whatever. Johnson did.
He did too, on top of what Brock. So you saw he get concussed when he hit that. You could see that head just hit that, like bounced off that carpet. I was like, going, oh my God, that.
Yeah, well, that was actually ground there.
Yeah, that's turf. So he hit the ground. So he slammed his head hard into the turf, and it bounced up. I could see. I said, I knew you saw the replay, and I said, he was done.
Yeah, I thought he had all I thought was concussion, but then when they showed how he was hitting the arm, so that's the.
And so then he actually had
same
the
thing
arm.
Almost, So I looked at this situation, and if I had to look at it as a businessman, it's going to be hard for me to extend to it because he got a concussion when he never even got hit and knocked down. He got hit, but he never hit his head or anything.
Against Green Bay.
Yeah, he just got jarred. And can you put millions and millions of dollars into a guy that one hit, he might be out of there? I just don't know. I don't know. That is such a hard situation because when I see the improvement that he has had, I do believe he should be extended. But can I do it looking at his medical? And how easily it seems that he gets concussed. And it seems they say that too. After you start having them numerous times, they come a little bit quicker.
They reoccur quicker.
And that you have to factor in all that.
And that's going to be a problem.
So you sign Lamar, you basically saying you're done. So
then you don't.
You got a sticky situation.
You would not extend his contract and probably trade him.
Right. And that situation is so sticky. If he decides he's going to play, which he probably will or has already.
He'll want to play.
Right. And if they're going to allow that, then I think you got to move away from the Lamar Jackson situation. Yeah, but you better have some kind of backup.
What are you going to do?
You better sign Teddy Bridgewater again. You better make sure. You better sign somebody of that nature.
Teddy's had he's also had his bout with injuries.
Yeah, but you got to get somebody. There's got to be somebody ready and on hand to play. And that's one of your best backups in the NFL.
Skylar Thompson's probably
he's there, and you've seen that they like him. He might be able to get ready. He might be the starting quarterback.
He might be the guy.
Yeah, he might be.
I don't know
whether they like it or not.
You might end up with Skylar being the guy.
You might have. I mean, I heard one guy was a Bill Polian. He said he would sign all of them. If you're going to keep two, if you make the decision, I'm not going for Lamar or anybody else. Sign Skylar, make sure you sign Teddy Bridgewater too. So you have that bridge veteran, and you got a guy that's up and coming in
Skylar Thompson.
Yep, and then you got all the guys on board that you have.
And you roll in the next season with those three guys on board.
Know the system. They know everything that's going. You have been successful to a degree with each one of them.
They should have beat Buffalo in the playoffs with Skylar Thompson starting the third string.
You got to, I would just go back with that. Especially if Tua wants to play, you got to give the man an opportunity if he wants to, and you're all right with it, sign all three.
I guess you give him you pick up that year on the contract for Tua. Mm-hmm. You give Bridgewater, I don't know the contract he has, but you either sign him
for another year.
For another year, and then Skyler's probably still on a rookie deal.
He's still on
so
a rookie deal. Yep.
You go that direction.
That's what I would do.
Or you make the trade for Lamar Jackson, and you keep Skyler, and you get rid of Bridgewater and get rid of Tua.
Yeah, especially if you know he's not going to play. But
Right.
if he says, yes, I want to play, it's hard for you to say you're not playing unless that's how you feel.
Well, once he clears the concussion protocol, which he has, rolling into next year, he'll be. If you're going to roll out, he'll be your starter next year. You
he's
just
your
hope
starter.
he doesn't have another concussion.
That's all you could do.
That would knock him out, and that's the concern with him is just can he get through the season without getting hurt?
Yeah,
but
his body does all kind of.
But it seems like when he
contortions
gets
every time
hit, it reminds me of
contorts
getting the
everything.
rag doll. He just like they just slam him in the turf, and he gets contorted and gets
I don't
whacked.
know why.
I don't know either.
It's two guys.
I don't.
And I remember in the NFL that every time they got hit, they always got. I mean, just like destroyed. Was Eric Hipple? If guys remember Eric
Hipple.
This guy's body, he get hit. His body is all over the place.
Yeah, the arms go.
I mean, just everywhere.
It all gets contorted, and he just
And
gets
that's what Tua reminds me of.
right. He just gets slammed to the turf, and the body goes everywhere, and he just gets beat up to no
Sometimes
end.
they're not real hard hits. It's
No.
just that when he gets hit, he goes awkwardly to the ground.
Right,
Everything.
and that's it. It's the way he gets hit. It's like the way, like with Brock Purdy, he got hit, didn't look real bad, but the arm was out of back here when the guy hit him, and then you could see it kind of like crank into the shoulder and everything, and you could see that was abnormal after you saw it on slow motion hit.
Mm-hmm.
You knew he was done.
Right.
And then, what's his name comes in?
Josh
Johnson comes in, and he just gets whacked to the turf.
Yeah.
You see that head slam up into the turf lane, and you knew, well, he's done.
And he was struggling for a second. Then you see him get into a little bit of a flow. And then he took that hit, man.
Right. And I know people were down on him. He had that fumble, which hurt. But, the thing with that bothers me with that game more than anything was the beginning of the game on the fourth down.
Devontae Smith?
Devontae Smith makes that catch. And, Fox waits forever to show the replay. So you don't see the replay till actually till they score the touchdown. After they score the touchdown, they come back. Fox goes, "Oh yeah, here's the replay. It wasn't a catch."
Right, but people got to understand that what you see on TV is not what they see in that replay thing.
So what was going on? I
different.
guess what Kyle Shanahan said, they didn't see the replay either.
They see different angles. They don't
Right.
see what that see. I'll get ready to say CBS, but Fox, CBS, whoever would be doing it, ABC.
Yeah,
they
that
can
was Fox.
Right, they can go to their camera people and
Right.
ask, "Give me this angle, give me that
Right.
angle." When they do it in the replay booth, that's not how it goes. As the guy that talked about, not Mike Pereira, but the former ref, he said that's not how they do it. It's a different angles. He said, but what you do is when you see things and it's a little bit of uproar, you should just go ahead and take the chance.
Or
and
burn a
take time.
timeout.
Yep. He said, take a timeout.
Right.
It gives it time
Right.
now to look at things.
Right.
And he said that's the part he didn't understand. I forgot the name. It's a ref that just recently retired.
Yeah, I know who you mean. Yeah, because
I can't
they were
think of his- but
saying
he's
right.
that's what he should have done.
What he should have done, because it was like an unbelievable catch. It's the first half. You don't need the timeouts. It would have been the
It
perfect
was actually 10 minutes still in the first quarter.
You could have burned that timeout and just said, "Hey, you know what? Timeout. I want a timeout here." Then you go to your people, say, "Let's look at that." The sad part is, I don't know if here's the thing. Weird things happen in the beginning of the game that set a pace for the game. I'm convinced of that. Okay. If he challenges that, they win it.
Yeah.
They get the ball at the 35-yard line. It's a whole different case scenario. Maybe Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt because they're not in that situation. It changed the complexion of the game.
Yeah, it could, but that's the only thing that I disagree with it is the fact that happened. they scored.
Right.
San Fran got the ball.
Right.
Came right back and scored.
Right. But
so those scenarios that San Fran scored on may not have happened.
Possibly.
If it was, right. It's possible that
or not,
right.
or maybe San Fran goes on and scores it at 7-0 San Francisco.
Right. They could have.
Right.
They could have.
But
that's
set.
It's too early in the game.
That's
for
set.
Me.
To me, though, it seemed to me watching that game, San Francisco was crawling out of a hole they couldn't get out of. That set the pace. They got down on that team, and they could never get out. And then and Brock Purdy gets hurt.
Yeah. But
now
but there was no hole to crawl. That's why when people were saying that, because I said it was 10 minutes.
But didn't he get hurt right after that? Or
No.
they scored the touchdown.
Yeah, they scored with
then
him.
he got touched. You see,
yeah, they scored and tied it up. That's why I said it was 10 minutes and 43 seconds when that happened.
Would love to know, we'll never know, if that happened, does the outcome end up probably the same? We'll never know. But maybe the game itself is a better game, because the reality was that game was over at halftime.
Well, let's put everything else happen. Let's say that they did stop him there. But let's put everything else happen as it happened.
Well, then you would say Purdy gets hurt.
Yeah, he still gets hurt.
I think that
changed the game. Not that catch.
Right.
Brock Purdy and having to go to your
does
other
Brock
quarterback.
Purdy get ultimately under that case scenario? That's I guess the question.
I think
is,
so,
does
because
it change it?
Because the thing about it, they wasn't running the ball, so they're going to have to pass.
Right.
And one thing I will say about Philadelphia that I did not know and being a fan of, when our same guy we talked about, Vic Fangio, was talking about guys that listen to coaching. You see how they came at the quarterback and hit both quarterbacks in the same area. Every defensive lineman is taught that's what you do. You don't go and just put your hands up. When you go to the quarterback, go to the throwing arm.
Right.
Because you can dislodge the ball. It's a lot of things that can happen if you do that. And that's what you can see that they're coached, and they do exactly that. So does that situation still happen? I don't know, but if we go with everything like that, I don't see nothing different except that they may have scored first, because they came right back, and it was too early. It was only 4 minutes into the game, so it wasn't like Philly was dominating them or they was dominating. It was nothing going on except Philly started to get a little drive going, and they still wasn't in touchdown range until that pass. So it was nothing that was real demoralizing on either side. Only 4 minutes into the game. Now, after that was a big problem, especially when he got hurt, because they came right back and scored. It was 7-7, and you just seen them going back and forth. When he got hurt, well, I think Philly scored again while he was still healthy.
Because
then they scored next again, and I think it was 13 or 14. I guess they got the extra point, 14-7. And then after that, when he got hurt, it was this.
When was, I guess that's the thing is.
You trying to see when he got hurt?
Yeah, when did Brock Purdy get hurt? What quarter?
It might have been second.
That's what I was just trying to figure out.
Second. And that's what I'm saying. They did not stop Philly. That if I seen them just stop, it was just a complete stalwarts on both sides, and then Purdy that's a big factor. Big. But they wasn't stopping him. And that was a problem. It was allowing Philly to make conversions. That's the thing, the third down conversions. They was getting too many of them. And that's something that San Fran did not allow to happen most of the season. You get the third down on San Fran, you in bad shape. And it was just different things they were taking advantage of to be able to get those first downs.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out. Let's kind of move on to Kyrie. Kyrie obviously wants traded out of the Brooklyn Nets. Now came out this week. The trade deadline, I believe, is the 9th of February, Dave Clark. So obviously today's the 4th. They've got 5 days to trade him or keep him. He's in the last year.
You said the 15th, right?
I think it's the 9th.
To trade him. And then the 15th is the ultimatum date.
Trade night. No, they've got to trade. Yeah, this is what I thought. Kyrie's got to be traded by Thursday, February 9th.
Oh yeah, it is tonight.
So he's got that's 5 days away. So the Nets have 5 days to trade him. Now, the other team that I saw this morning that were supposedly allegedly in the contract, in the discussions to trade were the Phoenix Suns and Miami Heat.
Mm-hmm.
Were a couple of the other teams supposedly in the Kyrie sweepstakes, sort of to speak.
I definitely thought Miami would be in it.
Man, Miami's in there, and the Phoenix Suns were in there, and I think there was one other team in there. So
Mavs, I believe.
Maybe
that
the Cat. A lot of different. The point I guess we're going to be dealing with. I think if the Nets trade him, they're going to obviously want to look at the best bet for them.
Yeah, they have to. Yeah.
Now, the name that keeps coming up with the Lakers, and Lakers number one on the list, would be, and supposedly rumor has it that that LeBron's, and they've been talking about it, and this is all like LeBron's telling him, we want you here, request the trade, we'll get you. Rumor has it.
Mm-hmm.
They're all,
they all
and all this, and let's not be naive. I'm sure it's all going on. Yeah.
The
players are always
talking,
communicating, and they're working back and forth. That doesn't surprise me, is what I heard. So people get all upset. Back off, relax. That's life in the NBA. Players are always constantly talking to other players. Hey, we want you to come here and play, blah, blah, blah. Can you work out a trade with your team? Was it going on? I'm sure it was.
Right.
So anyway, the Nets have to make the decision. Do they trade him and let him play out the contract and get nothing for him because his contractor's up at the end of the year?
Uh-huh.
The talk is if they trade to the Lakers, it's Westbrook's $47 million. I think Kyrie's making $36. So there's about $11 million gap. Then obviously they would supposedly have to get another player to match up the cap and then probably draft picks.
Yeah, probably Joe Harris or someone of that nature.
Somebody there, they could have to work out the mechanics of that draft. Or do they look at the Miami Heat? Can Miami give them a better package? Or maybe the Phoenix Suns give them a better package? Or do the Nets just say, nope, we're going to roll out. When Durant comes back, you and him play for the title.
Yeah.
You're in contention. You obviously showed this year that when Durant's healthy and you're healthy, you guys can win a lot of games.
Yeah.
And do they just tell Kyrie, we'll let you play out the contract, but we get nothing for you?
Yeah.
Or do they make the trade and get something, but they probably aren't going to be quite the team without, if they trade Kyrie, they're probably not going to be any kind of contention. They'll be out. I mean, they'd be a good team, but they're not going to be able to contend with Boston and Milwaukee.
Right.
But if they keep Kyrie and Durant, you have a chance.
Yeah.
If you trade Kyrie and that talent and you get rid of Kyrie, whatever you get for Kyrie, even if it's Westbrook, it's going to be a different team, and you're not going to get out of the East. Yeah. If you have Kyrie, you have a chance. Not to say you will, but you have a better chance of winning the East and maybe getting into an NBA Finals if you keep him. Yeah. If you trade him, I think the chances of getting to an NBA Final or even getting out of the NBA East is a lot less.
And I think honestly, I don't think they'll make it either way because Boston is something.
Yeah, Boston seems to be. You got Milwaukee and Boston are the two teams there that are going to pretty much are the two teams to beat.
Yeah.
Boston can't. I mean, Brooklyn can't beat Boston for some reason. I don't know why. They've only won one playoff series since Durant and Kyrie have been there.
Right. And so you got to look at all that. And do you want to roll with that, or
do you
look at your future because he's going to walk and you get nothing?
Right. So do you look at those? Do you take the Westbrook contract for the year, but get all the draft choices?
Yeah.
And build off that, or do you get a better package with Miami or maybe Phoenix or some other team would come along and give you a better package, and that way you're going to get something for him, and you trade him to some other team. He does not have a no trade in the contract, so wherever he goes, he's going. Like Kyrie doesn't have yet. Kyrie can't shoot the trade down, say, I don't want to go there.
Right, yeah.
He requests a trade, you could send him anywhere you want. If you could shop him in the league to get the best you could get. But granted, you're going to get into teams. What does a team really want to give you if they're not going to keep him, if he's going to walk at the end of the year, especially if it's a team that's really not in contention?
Right. Yeah, because they could take him, and it's just don't make sense to lose all kind of assets, and the guy's going to say, I'm not staying here.
No, I'll be here to the end of the year. I'm leaving. I'll be a free agent.
You got to make sure he's going to a team. Well, the team that's going to get him.
Well, I would think the team that's going to trade for him and give a lot up is got to think of, we've got to give him a long-term deal. We got to give him that contract extension.
Yep.
So that's the other thing. The team that wants him, you've got to figure if you're trading for Kyrie and you're going to give that the draft capital up, you've got to be thinking you've got to get a long-term deal worked out with him because you don't want to give up all the draft capital and then ultimately he can walk at the end of the year because you didn't sign him to the extension.
Yeah.
So you're up kind of against that, and that might hurt his trade value because teams are like going, well, I'll trade, but I'm not going to really give you anything unless I could trade him long term. And if Kyrie's saying, well, I don't think I want to stay with you long term, guy goes, well, why am I trading? I don't want to do that.
Right. And that's where he got a little bit of power by trying to force it to the Lakers because I think he wants to go there.
He wants to go there.
Not only just about LeBron, but he always had a thing for the Lakers because of his relationship with Kobe.
Right.
So he's going to want to go there. And I think he would sign a long-term contract
with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
and Lakers going to do it. I believe they would because are you going to waste the last few years of LeBron's past your prime normally? Prime?
Right. Because LeBron
age-wise, he's past his prime.
He might be,
he's not playing
not
wise.
Play-wise. No.
This is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
When you really think about it.
Oh, it is. Yeah,
it's
right.
insane.
Oh, yeah. It's
for a guy.
Yeah, for LeBron being 38 and playing at the level that he's playing, he
30 points a game.
He doesn't slow down.
No. I mean, that's people could say whatever they want to say about him.
Right, you could.
But nobody has played at that level
at that
long.
age.
Not at this.
I've never seen any player.
Nope. Not at that level.
My life at 38 years old play at LeBron's level. Nope. I mean, I the only person you could maybe get in the discussion. Kareem was playing old, and he played really good for his years of playing center for the Lakers. He didn't slow down. He played really good, but LeBron's at a whole different level. LeBron has not slowed anywhere down at all.
No.
I mean,
because those last couple years with Kareem, he still was playing well, but you could see the age.
You could see where he just wasn't,
changed, but he still
because he was almost 40 years old.
Yeah, but he still was better than a lot of other guys.
Right, but he was still right.
And this stuff is
so
insane.
yeah. LeBron, is still playing at a level, a crazy level.
If it's a guy's scoring title, who he's going to beat?
Yeah,
he'll guy because
he'll take.
They both played at advanced age and was still great.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's the thing right there. I mean, if the question's going to be realistically with Kyrie, you got 5 days here. Does he end up in a Laker uniform is going to really be the $100 million question. Because if they don't trade him to the Lakers, I don't know I don't think, here's the problem you're going to have. I don't think Kyrie's going to go anywhere but the Lakers to sign a long-term deal, which is going to generate maybe the most capital you can get for him. If you're going to trade him to another team, you could do that, but the team's not going to give you a lot unless. And if Kyrie's telling them, I'm not signing with you, they're going to say, well, I don't want Kyrie. I don't want to give up a lot of draft capital for Kyrie if he's not signing the deal.
Yeah.
Because that's stupid. Right. So at the end of the day, I think that's where the rubber meets the road. Does he go with the Lakers because he's going to get the best package? Or do the Nets just say, no, we're going to ride it out. We know we won't get anything for you.
Well, we'll know next week.
We will know this time next week.
Yep.
Saturday Morning Sports Page. We will be back next week. Same time, same bad hours. Stay safe. Do not drink. Do not drive. And buckle up. Western Reserve Radio. Matt Lucia, Dave Clark. Saturday Morning Sports Page.
Hi, it's Mark Means, host of By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge.
I spend a lot of time in the backyard, and I'm the center of attention at summer barbecues. In '96, I made some of the tastiest s'mores. And in '09, it was me, your backyard fire pit, that accidentally started a wildfire when a summer breeze carried one of my embers into some dry